Topping the news this half an hour, American jobs and trade war worries. The president wants to slap China's technology and telecom sectors with tariffs of up to $60 billion. President Trump is targeting China, which seeks to undercut American gains in artificial intelligence and robotics, among other industries. Joining me right now to talk more about that and other things is the White House Principal Deputy Press Secretary, Raj Shah. Raj, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Maria. Thanks for having me on.
Markets are certainly telling a story in the face of these tariffs, trading down, hoping not for a trade war. Tell us what we should expect as it relates to China, something more specific.
Well, we don't expect and don't want a trade war, but the president does want the United States to pursue free, fair, and reciprocal trade agreements, and that means dealing with countries like China and others around the world that don't rip us off, that don't steal our intellectual property. So on the issue of intellectual property rights, he ordered last year the Commerce Department to initiate an investigation on the matter under Statute 301. That's going to render a report, and the president will potentially take action regarding that report. China's engaged in unfair practices. I think the whole world knows about them. They steal intellectual property from the United States and from other countries around the world, and the president may choose to address that in the coming weeks.
Well, the U.S. government does not monitor or restrict venture investing and the potential transfer of early-stage technology know-how, and yet China has been involved in 10% of all venture deals done in the last 5 years, and in doing so has been able to transfer important technology from the U.S. to China.
Yeah, that's right. The president ran on a philosophy of ensuring that technology investments and progress on that front is American-made and American-owned, and he wants to ensure that American technology is kept in the United States to the extent that that's possible. You saw a recent decision when it came to CFIUS with regard to the Qualcomm and Broadcom potential merger. You may see potentially other actions like that. The president has a standard when it comes to national security and the American economy that's a little bit different from previous administrations, and it ensures that American technology and American ingenuity is kept here for the interests of national security.
Right. Let me ask you, Raj, let me switch gears here. And the president, of course, naming Larry Kudlow to the key economic spot of the NEC. What is the president looking for Larry Kudlow to do?
Well, we're very excited about Larry Kudlow coming on board in the near future. Look, Larry's an economic giant, right? He's had experience in government from the New York Fed to the Reagan administration in the private sector. And obviously, he's been, a presence for the American people in their living rooms for years.
Right.
And frankly, one of the key jobs of the NEC chair is to communicate the president's economic vision, communicate his policies to the American people. And on that front, along with many others, Larry's going to be a huge presence in this White House and in this administration. So the president's looking for, Mr. Kudlow to, present him with his ideas on the economy, advise him on policy, and then help him make decisions and communicate those decisions to the American people. We're very excited to have him coming on board.
Will that include a phase 2 of the tax cut plan?
Yeah, look, the president's been talking about, and Chairman Kevin Brady and the House have been talking about a phase 2 tax cut plan. We want to make the personal income tax cuts in the first tax cut bill permanent. They've talked about potentially lowering the capital gains rate. And there's some other ideas that have been discussed. So, there was so much success and more success than we actually could have predicted, with hundreds of companies announcing bonuses, announcing wage hikes,
right.
All sorts of announcements from the first tax cut bill. Why not do it again, right?
Well,
So we don't have specifics regarding an actual proposal or a timeline just yet. We're obviously going to wait for Larry to come here and get on board. But that's something that the president, along with Chairman Brady, are looking at.
And here's what the president said about that yesterday.
We're now going for a phase 2. We're actually going for a phase 2, which will help, in addition to the middle class, will help companies, and it's going to be something I think very special. Kevin Brady's working on it with me. Congress is working. The Senate's working.
And Raj, you were with the president yesterday during that visit to a Boeing plant in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's right. Look, the president talked to, but Boeing was one of the first companies actually to announce bonuses for its workers, I think in December of last year. And Boeing, along with hundreds of companies, benefited from this tax cut bill. It's going to create American jobs. It's going to create higher wages. And we want a second phase of similar proposals, this one to be a little bit more focused on making permanent parts of the first phase and also looking at capital gains, along with other provisions, but to make, again, investments in the United States better and to help middle-class families, earn and keep more.
And yet, yesterday, Boeing stock traded down sharply because people were worried about the impact of tariffs, particularly as it relates to aluminum and steel on Boeing.
Right. Well, look, American aluminum and steel are critical industries to American national security. That was what the 232 investigation that the Commerce Department engaged in was all about.
Right.
We need to ensure that there are critical levels of American production in terms of steel production, in terms of aluminum smelters for our national security and for our core infrastructure. And that is what those steel and aluminum announcements for tariffs that are going to go into effect next week were all about. And so there may be some impact to some industries, there may be some benefits to others, but our core thought process with this is, ensuring that American national security is protected.
By the way, Raj, when will we see the details of this tax cut phase 2?
Well, I don't have the details. Again, I think we're going to want, Larry Kudlow to weigh in as well as a few others. When we have a plan, we'll present it. But, right now we've had so much success from phase 1, from this tax cut bill that was passed in December, that we want to look at new options in phase 2.
Let's talk about the shakeups happening at the White House. New reports this morning that VA Secretary David Shulkin is on his way out. He could be replaced by Energy Secretary Rick Perry. Is Rick Perry switching cabinet posts?
No, there's no announcements to make. Frankly, here at the White House, we get a little annoyed with all the rumor, all the innuendo, all the nonsense that's put out there. When the president has a decision to make, he'll make that clear to everyone. But right now, with all the parlor games being discussed in Washington, we think it's frankly there's too much interest in who has a job in the West Wing or who has a job in the administration, and not enough focus on who has a job out there in the country among the American people. That's what our focus is. Our focus is on policy and getting it right, so that way unemployment stays low and goes lower, wages rise, and
Raj,
we can
I understand what you're saying, but
families.
come on, give us a break. There's been an incredible amount of movement in this White House in just the last 2 weeks. So you say you get annoyed by people focusing on it.
Because
you're giving us the news.
I do, Maria, because there's been an incredible amount of movement. There's also been an incredible amount of success. Again, I mentioned unemployment. We could also talk about national security, where this administration's policies have crushed ISIS.
Right.
Where we have put more pressure on North Korea and created an opening.
And we talk about that all the time.
Sure.
The president should be given praise for some of these policies, particularly as it relates to ISIS, foreign policy,
and it's the team with all the turnover that's helped them do that. So, again, our focus is on the policies and on getting it right on economic security, on national security, and making sure that we can improve the lives of the American people. And when the president has personnel announcements about the team that can help him get the job done, we'll make those available to everybody.
How big of a disappointment was the Pennsylvania special election, Raj?
Well,
do you think that's a proxy for the midterms?
I don't. I think that all campaigns, each campaign is unique. Each candidate is unique. Obviously, there are going to be trends nationwide. A couple things that we've observed from that election is that, the Democratic candidate really ran in many ways like a Republican candidate might, and embraced the president's policies on a host of issues, and he didn't embrace Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats. So that's something that we observe. But look, each candidate is unique, and we think that, and I've talked quite a bit today about the president's successes. We think hugging them would be beneficial to any candidate. But beyond that, I don't want to talk too much about 2018 in politics.